Retirement may seem a long way off to you and to most people. However, there are some great alternatives that you can do right now to live cheaper, save more money, invest more money, and enjoy your life now and not wait for retirement. So the FIRE movement stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early, and it's largely focused on saving and investing 50% or more of your income to be financially independent, so you have the choice whether you want to work or not, and do this typically within 10 years. I did this and recorded a video about my experience with the FIRE movement and how I retired early in my late 40s, and I actually hated not working. Retirement early is kind of a misnomer for financial independence. Being financially independent is different than retirement. Retirement, we have these images of retiring on the beach, sipping our Mai Tais and laying out all day and not really doing anything. But the truth is that most people like to work. So as a follow-up to that video, I think it's worth exploring some alternatives to retirement because frankly, no one really wants to sit around and do nothing. In fact, most people who retire early end up going back to work within a year. The same goes for people who sell their business for tens of millions of dollars, or they make a lot of money every year. Think about pro athletes like LeBron James who make tens of millions of dollars a year, or Elon Musk who runs multiple companies and is the richest person in the world. Why do these people work so hard when they have all the money that they could ever need? Well, it's because they like it. People like working. So as much as we talk about work-life balance and how we hate Mondays, people who are lucky enough to find a job that they love or even like actually enjoy going to work. They enjoy being around people that are creating something, that are engaged in a fun project that can help people, can benefit people, that can be sold, being part of a team, earning a paycheck, which is one thing that I really missed when I left the workforce. These things people really love. We actually love working because it is very, very satisfying. So if the idea of retirement and doing nothing at any age sounds dreadfully boring to you, listen up because we're going to explore some alternatives that may be a better fit for adventurers like us, people who like to create and do things. The great thing about the options that I'm going to talk about is that none of them is permanent. It's something that you can do for a while and then go back to what you were doing or change things up. For example, a recent article in the Wall Street Journal talked about how we're all living healthier longer, living longer lives and healthier for longer as well. So much so that a 60-year career may become the new normal. However, not the typical kind of career where you climb the corporate ladder over 40 years at the same company where they give you the gold watch at the end. That kind of career is already gone for most people. It's the kind of career where you're switching jobs, reinventing yourself, maybe even switching to a totally different profession, being a freelancer, basically mixing it up every few years, every decade or so, to keep it interesting, to keep leveling up your skills and doing something different. So if working for 60 years sounds dreadful to you, then maybe it's time to rethink your concept of work and your work environment. Let's talk about some of the ways to do that, to mix it up and rethink how we're working. First is taking an extended vacation or a mini retirement. The big retirement when we're older and maybe don't have the same energy seems a far way off. Why wait until you're retired in old age to enjoy yourself? I've traveled the world, about 50 or so countries I've been to, and I see all over the world these tour groups of senior citizens that get off the bus and are herded to different sites to see different things, and they get on the bus and go back to their hotel because they don't have quite the energy that they used to because they waited until they were in old age, in retirement age, to go see the world. But you don't have to do it like that. You can take a break and go do the things that you want to do and then go back to work. This is happening more and more as people are taking longer vacations, especially after COVID, when people realized that money isn't everything and they actually want more of their time. A recent survey showed that salary wasn't the top thing that people considered. It was time off to do other things besides just being at work. Americans don't get a lot of vacation days as a standard, and most people don't even take half of those vacation days. So it's no wonder that people get burned out. We're working around the clock, and when we're not at the office, we're checking our phones, checking our messages, checking in with the office on vacations, making sure we don't miss anything. So one solution, one change you can make is finding a company that appreciates a work-life balance and doesn't expect you to be constantly available. In fact, around the world, shorter work days and work weeks are becoming more popular because studies are showing over the last few years that it benefits both the company and the employee, because the employee in, say, a 4-day work week gets an extra day off to go on a 3-day trip, to take some downtime, to do other pursuits outside of work. They end up being happier and more productive, which benefits the company. They end up staying longer at the company because they appreciate that kind of work-life balance, which is good for the company and for the employee. So second is to take all of your vacation days, and when you make a pact with yourself and your family, if you have one, that you're going to take all of your vacation days and be present on those vacation days, which is rare these days. Your company will be just fine without you. Don't let your ego or your boss convince you that if you don't answer emails or text messages or even phone calls on your vacation, that the company's going to crumble. And if it does, or if it's that kind of company, it's probably not the kind of company you want to work at in the first place. Third is take a long vacation or mini retirement. There are companies that will let employees do this to take extended time off, and if yours isn't one of them, consider switching to another company and take some time in between. Of course, you need to save up for it and plan for it, but that's something to be aware of, and have a goal to have a little bit of FU money so you have that cushion as you're switching companies to take a few months off and not be in a rush to find something right away. My wife wants to take 3 weeks and hike El Camino in Spain, which I think sounds like a great goal. With a typical career, a typical company, it's hard to do that. But there are companies that will let you take a few weeks off, save up for it, and plan around it so everybody knows what to expect. And there are companies that will let you do that. So seek out those companies or create that kind of space or that kind of company where that is normal. Okay, number 2 is change of career or just change jobs entirely. We talked a bit about this just now, but when you take a break, take some time away from your career and reassess, take some downtime, then go find a job that you really like. This happened again a lot during the pandemic as people were working at home. They realized that they didn't really like what they were doing, and so millions of people changed jobs and changed careers entirely, didn't go back to work. And again, having a little bit of FU money gives you more freedom. The more money you have in a savings account, the more time you have to take away from work and the luxury you have to find a job that you might like. So maybe you don't have enough money to fully retire or even partially retire now, but if you have a little bit of money, you have some that you can take a long vacation, take a little break, and do something else. Go back to work recharged. This is the new working environment where you work for a little bit, take a break, and then you go work again. This is becoming more and more popular, partially because of the number 3 thing on the list, which is project-based work or freelance work. I recently saw a post from a company that I follow on LinkedIn that was advertising for a job that lasts 90 days. And the post said, for the right person, this will be highly rewarded, highly compensated, but it's going to be a lot of work, but also it's only a 90-day position. Get in, do the work that we hired you to do, specialized work, and then after 90 days, you can either stay on or you can go move to a different position in the company or move on and do something else entirely outside of the company. Again, it's not the typical career that you're going to work for 40 years. It's get in, do a job they hired you for, and if you're specialized in a certain skill, these kind of jobs are becoming more and more prevalent because companies want somebody that can do something specific. In fact, I was listening to a podcast by Freakonomics this morning talking about long snappers and how it's such a specialized position in the NFL. They only play about 8 plays every game, but earn over $1 million because it's such a specialized skill, snapping the ball, during the game that can be crucial to the win or loss of the company. So work for a company or on a project for a short amount of time, like a mercenary. If this is interesting to you, then you've got to build those niche specific skills that are highly specialized. Next is taking a sabbatical. Did you know that 85% of colleges and universities offer sabbaticals for their professors? And they're typically a year long and paid. 10% of companies actually offer this, and half of them are paid as well. So a few people know this and take advantage of it, but it's a great benefit of being at one of those companies or being a professor where you can just take a year off and then go back to teaching just what you were before. And it's a great opportunity to pursue some other goals that are outside of work. Next is seasonal jobs. I have a friend who loves to ski and camp and hike and do everything outdoors. So half of the year, for 4 or 5 months, he's a ski instructor. The other 4 or 5 months, he is a river guide. And then a couple months in between those, he just does whatever he wants. So he works hard for 4 or 5 months, saves up money, takes a couple months off, travels and spends some of that money, and then goes back to work, doing something else. There's a lot of seasonal work around the holidays, seasonal work like working in Alaska on a fishing boat. There are a lot of seasonal jobs that you can just work for a few months, save some money, and then go play for a while. That gives you some more options to work and then take it easy. Lastly is Geo Arbitrage. Tim Ferriss coined the phrase in his popular book, The 4-Hour Work Week, and that's the concept of moving to a different country or a different state that has a low cost of living where you're making the same salary. And there are American expats and expats from other countries all around the world that are doing this. There are 4 million Americans who live abroad, some for retirement, but most for working. If you choose to work remotely, you can work for the same company, start your own thing, work for a local company, and it's a huge financial advantage because your cost of living can drop dramatically, but your salary stays the same. Imagine you're making $80,000 a year, and you move to somewhere where you can live comfortably for $15,000 a year, and you bank the difference. So where are some of the places you can move to? Some of the popular countries are Portugal, Czechia, Malaysia, Costa Rica, and Panama, and also many American cities and states, mostly in the southern United States. So experience the world for yourself through your own eyes, and don't take the media's viewpoint that traveling is hard, or friends' viewpoint that it's hard, because it can be done. This happened to me when I moved to Paris in 2009, and I lived most of the time in Paris or Rome for 5 years. And people told me I was crazy, that it's too expensive, you can't do it, you can't leave the country, you're going to be lost. But I loved it. It's some of the best times of my life, because in the morning I would wake up and I would go to language school learning Italian and French. And now, as a result of doing those kind of adventures, I speak 6 languages because I love it, because I could study in the morning and then work in the afternoon and sometimes in the evenings. And I had that different kind of lifestyle where I could mix things up, where I could work somewhere else. Granted, those aren't real cheap cities, and I would like to do that again in some cheaper cities to save more money. But it's the experience, it's the adventure of working somewhere else. So remember, wherever you choose to work and live, remember to check the travel and visa requirements for your passport. So take another example. If you live in Thailand, you can live there comfortably for $25,000 a year. Using the 4% safe withdrawal rate, that means that you only need a portfolio of $625,000 to live comfortably, drawing out that 4% to live on $25,000. If you live in the Bay Area, where the average income is $60,000, and a lot of times it's even higher, you would need $1.5 million for the same 4% to live on. So you can see that when you're saving up a portfolio to live on, it really matters where you live, how much you need to spend. If you can go to a low-cost state or country, you need a lot less, which means that retirement is a lot more doable because you need a lot less money to save up. So a couple of the states that, according to CNBC, that people move to for a lower cost of living are Michigan, Tennessee, Missouri, Mississippi, Kentucky, Oklahoma, and Georgia. So if any of those sound nice to you, maybe you even live there, then check those out if you don't want to completely move out of the country. So there are a lot of options for the adventurous person to spice things up, to make life easier, to save and invest more money, and to retire earlier, or to create your own type of early retirement, which still involves work. Your own type of not necessarily retirement, but financial independence, coupled with an adventure and engaging work, doing something that you love.